Bonjour mon petit chiflet, Amber here. How are you? Today is March 6th. My half birthday was yesterday, if anyone cares. The day before that was a year since my last normal day before all this started. That's not what I'm here for though right now. Today, I'm sitting down to talk about all the books that I read in February. February, as we know, is Black History Month, and while I do read Black all year round, obviously in February I really wanted to make a point to dedicate my reading to Black books, Black authors, Black stories, and that's what I did. I read 4 books in February. I didn't read a single bad book in February. I've went through a lot of emotional turmoil in February, so let's talk about it, shall we? I want to talk about emotional turmoil first and foremost. First book I read in February, I've been putting off since, when did this book come out? August or September, maybe September 2020. It was one of my most anticipated reads of 2020. Actually, the first 2 books that I'm going to read were highest anticipated reads of 2020 and have been delegated to 2021. Anyway, I Finally Regrown by Tiffany D. Jackson. Oh, Jesus. Okay. This book follows, I think she's 17-year-old Enchanted Jones, who is an aspiring musician. And this follows the story of what happens after she meets Corey, what is his last name? Corey Fields? Yeah. Corey Fields, who is this super famous musician. This follows the story of when he takes her under his wing essentially, and it follows their very inappropriate, I don't want to say relationship. It's the story of him grooming her, or basically trying to figure out the truth behind the opening chapter, because in the opening chapter we find out that Corey is dead, and the story follows, in true Tiffany fashion, multiple timelines. It's the story of her relationship with Corey, her trying to follow her dreams of being a musician, and also trying to figure out who is responsible for his death. So, all that being said, I don't think I described that well at all. What was I going to say? All that being said, heavy trigger warnings for grooming, pedophilia, abuse, sexual assault, just a lot of All of Tiffany's books, well, most of Tiffany's books are inspired by a case. So while this is not, it's not R. Kelly's story, it's definitely heavily inspired by that whole situation. But more than that, it's also about, like, one, inappropriate relationships, grooming, also like the adultification of Black girls, Black children, but specifically black girls. It's about the abuse of power. It's about how society is quick to criticize girls for being manipulated by people who are supposed to know better, essentially. This book was so hard to get through, if I'm being really honest with you. So many points I had to put it down and step away. Like, I was not even more than a chapter into the book before I was like tense, shoulders up to I was just angry, and I just kept getting more angry the more I read, and just more sick and nauseated, and just, oh my god. Just all that being said, this book is a masterpiece. Tiffany D. Jackson is an auto-buy author for me. She's one of my favorite authors. I will literally read anything she writes. This book was woven so beautifully. It's a masterpiece, truly. Similarly, I don't think allegedly falls into this category, but like Monday's Not Coming, it's not really told linearly. There are multiple timelines that we're following, but it's kind of essential for following the story. It just, oh my god. And I can't find words. I think because it made me feel so much, like, it's just, oh. This was a 5-star read. I'm not going to keep trying to find the words. I was upset for the whole time that I was reading this book. And also, without spoiling anything, I finished the book and remembered that I have a flounder stuffed animal and I never want to see him again, which sucks because I also love The Little Mermaid. Whew. This also inspired me. This paired with the fact that it's like Women's History Month, it's like it's an option, like it might be Women's History Month. I am putting another fundraiser candle on my Etsy shop. By the time this goes up, will it be ready yet? I don't know. It might be available for pre-order. I will be donating proceeds to RAIN, which is I want to get the title right. Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. We really got to do better by girls, black girls. Also, this cover is stunning. I remember the first time I saw this cover, I was just like, oh my god. So then I was nervous to start this book because after being emotionally eviscerated, I wasn't sure if this would be too heavy for me, but I'm glad that Brittany made me read this book. Finally, like I said, another super highly anticipated 2020 read that got pushed to 2021, but it was worth it. I don't care when I read it. I've read it and it's now not just one of my favorite books of February or 2021, it's one of my favorite books ever. And it's Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. First of all, this cover, this book, oh my god. Okay, so this book follows 16-year-old Bree who has just started this kind of like pre-college program at UNC Chapel Hill in North Carolina right after her mom has tragically died, and she and her best friend Alice go to this program. Bree desperately is trying to get away, escape from memories of her mother and her grief, and she's kind of living in this what is she calling it, new Bree state. Long story short, right at the beginning of this story, like in her first couple of days on campus, she witnesses this magical kind of like demon attack and kind of gets swept up into this world, this secret society of Legendborn. They are all descendants of Arthur, King Arthur, and the knights at the Round Table. So we have Arthurian legend woven into the story. She meets Sel, who is a Merlin, and she gets caught up after he basically tries to wipe her memory and it doesn't work, which kind of reveals her own magic and also reveals to her that these people might have had something to do with her mother's death. So she teams up with Nick, who is like a self-exiled former Legendborn, basically, to help her infiltrate the Legendborn and find out the truth of her mother's murder or death, her mother's death. All the while there's like war brewing with like that side. Bree is also, like I said, still dealing with grief and like poorly compartmentalizing her grief, and not just the grief but like the disconnection she feels to her mother's line. And she also finds out some more about her mom's connection to the Legendborn. Not only that, but also the magic that she has within herself. And when I tell you that I am so fully obsessed with this book, I knew I was going to be, for several reasons. One, the main character is from North Carolina. My family is from North Carolina, so I already felt a connection. So we have like Southern black girl magic mixed with Arthurian legend. I've said it every time I think I mention this book. I've always been obsessed with the lore, the Arthurian legends. My favorite class in my quick stint in college was my King Arthur class. I've always wanted to dive more into like studying that. It was one of the classes I regretted leaving most when I left college. What was I gonna say? Oh, but I didn't expect to, one, see so much of myself within Bree, feel so much going through this journey with her. There's just so much. Okay, hold on, let me think for a second. Oh my god, there's just so much to talk about. I love, like I said, this book. Okay, for a debut, this book is a perfect book. Okay, not just a perfect debut, this is a perfect book. The characters are written so well. they're all individuals, right? Like, not, you know how you have a cast of characters and like, you know, you have side characters, but each of these people are like real fleshed out people. What was I going to say? The culture in this book, Tracy did it for the culture, but like the subtlety of it, it's like a if you know you know type situation. The fact that Bree takes such meticulous care of her hair, or when she doesn't, she like is off kilter when she hasn't had a wash day, and the fact that she has a wash day and like a routine, and she sleeps in a scarf, and or is it a bonnet, doesn't matter. I also appreciate that not one time did a crusty boy put his hands in her moisturized curls, thank you, but the ancestral magic that's woven in here. I have a lot I've read this book and I've been left with a lot of questions regarding my own family, but I can talk about that another time. I love the cast. I keep going back to the cast of characters, but I love how the Arthur legend was utilized, basically. I also like going back to the subtlety. We're in North Carolina. She's in this secret society that's like white, but like for the most part, I love the way the microaggressions were done. It's not like sometimes you read it, it's like it has to be, you read like YA books that at some point might touch on racism and it has to be like in your face, but it's kind of like more honest when it's subtle, because a lot of the times it is subtle. The racism and microaggressions are subtle. If you are someone who doesn't like love triangles and you feel kind of daunted because during promotion, whatever it is, mentioned that there's a love triangle in here. One, I'll say that it's not necessarily, at least right now, a love triangle, but the way it's done is beautiful. And each party involved, I adore them. What else do I want to say about Legendborn? It's magical, it's beautiful, it's perfect. Look at the tabs. I would die for this book is what I'm saying to you, and I can't wait for book 2. I have a lot of theories, I have a lot of questions, I have a lot of expectations going into book 2. I'm like, you can't leave me like this. And now that things have happened, I can't wait for stuff to start popping off. I also really love the emphasis and importance of not just therapy, but of Bree having a Black woman therapist, and how that helped her connect to her mother and her mother's like lineage. Is that the word I'm thinking of? Ancestry. I just love this book. I love this book. I love that Bree is a North Carolina girl. Yes, I am Philly all day, but I also strongly connect to my roots. I haven't been to North Carolina in a while, but when I was little, or not even just little, like growing up, that was my favorite time of the year, was when we went down to where my grandma's from, which is also a very small kind of like rural-ish town, and my family's still very southern. I wanted to move to North Carolina. Like growing up, I always thought, oh, I'm gonna move to North Carolina, I'm gonna live in North Carolina. I don't think I stand by that statement anymore, but I do love it. I love, like I said, the southern Black roots mixed with this. I think the original story is Welsh. Let me stop babbling. 5 out of 5 stars. 10 out of 10 stars. All the stars. All the stars are closer. Ooh. I am doing candles right now. Please hold. Okay, so where was I? Alright, so the next book that I read in February was Homegoing by Gayasi. This was actually a Christmas gift from my mom. She bought me a bunch of books for Christmas, and one of the ones, what did she buy me? Was it Clap When You Land? It was some book that I already had, so she exchanged it for this. She was like in the bookstore, she's like, have you heard of this book? I was like, I mean, grab it for me. And then I realized I had heard of this book because I was looking into reading Transcendent Kingdom, which is this author's other book, newest book. I think it came out in 2021, 2020. I can't remember, but I was looking into it and saw like, oh, she wrote this book too. Anywho, doesn't matter. This book is a multi-generational book that starts in Ghana in the 18th century, and it starts with two half-sisters. One is married off to a white soldier who is a slaver, and she lives in the castle on the coast where the slaves are shipped off to America and various other, the Caribbean and whatnot. Meanwhile, her half-sister, who was born in a completely different village, they know nothing of each other, is captured, kidnapped, sold into slavery. And this follows both of their lines, their offspring, and what is the word that I'm thinking of? We go through the generations from following each of their lines. Each chapter is descendants. Each chapter is told through the point of view of each of their descendants. So, for example, the first chapter is sister number 1, who is Afia, and then the next chapter is AC. So then it'll follow following that will be one of Afia's descendants, then one of Essie's descendants, so forth and so forth, so on and so forth. We're following the parallel paths of their descendants through, this says 8 generations. It says, from the Gold Coast to the plantations of Mississippi, from the American Civil War to Jazz Age Harlem. And that's just one bloodline. I really enjoyed this book. I don't know, I didn't really have too many expectations because this wasn't really one that was too on my radar until, you know, I received it as a gift. Really beautiful story. I thought it was really interesting that we were following 2 parallel paths and just like how the paths were separated. And to see, you know, the differences in the lives, or what could have been for some people, I haven't eaten today and it's almost 6 o'clock, so I'm shutting down. This is the part that I thought was really interesting, and something that we don't really look into or discuss too much, or at least I don't see. I won't say we don't. I don't see discussed too much. It says Yagassi's extraordinary novel illuminates slavery's troubled legacy, both for those who were taken and for those who stayed. And that's like I said, a look how slavery basically impacted the lives of those like on the continent, on the coast, and infiltrated those lives, because like not just the people who were taken, but the people who stayed, the people who took part in the slave trade, the people who benefited from it or lost people to it. You know, when we talk about slavery, we just talk about like the American side of it and like the descendants of slavery, which, you know, valid, but colonialism, man. And shows how the memory of captivity has been inscribed on the soul of our nation. That also, there's a lot of like generational trauma talked about in this book. I think the only thing holding me back is also something I've really liked about the book. From giving it a full 5 stars is what I'm trying to say. I really liked, like I said, that we were following 2 different paths, and like each chapter was a different time period and new character, new story, right? It almost gave the feel of short story collection. On the other hand, it kind of made it harder to connect, or like really, it's like a snapshot, so it's kind of hard to really hold on to the characters, connect to the characters. But this doesn't make sense, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm rambling. What helped that is that, you know, you're following a family, you know, you're following a bloodline, so the story still does connect and come back together. Whatever. 4 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed this. I'm really curious to read, what did I say it's called? Transcendent Kingdom. Okay, and the last book I'll say finished, because I started reading this at the same time that I started reading Grown. Well Read Black Girl, speaking of short stories, which is an anthology. It's a collection of essays from various Black, I don't want to just say authors, but like authors and playwrights and poets and whatnot. And it's edited by Glory Edim, who is the founder of Well Read Black Girl, the Well Read Black Girl book club, which is also on Instagram. I really love their account. So I'm always kind of weird with short story collections. I'm always like, yeah, I'm always excited to read them, but much like I said with Homegoing, it's sometimes hard to connect because they are like snapshots. I'm also really, really bad at writing short stories. I'm trying to work on that, which is why I've been doing the Story a Month challenge, which is done by Susan Dennard. I've been trying to like hone my short story skill. But this, I really, really loved reading through this. I think it's because these are more so essays than stories. These are kind of like, you know, moments. Each person is talking about like basically, you know, when they first encountered themselves within literature, finding our stories, discovering ourselves, like, you know, your first experience discovering yourself within literature as a Black woman. You know, the thing I will say most about this is that I have a lot of works added to my TBR, some of which I'm like, how I'm embarrassed to say I haven't read yet. We don't have to talk about that right now. Mind your business. Thank you so much. Some things I've really never heard of. My favorite part though is that in the opening, like prologue-y bit, I keep forgetting that I found this signed copy of Books of Wonder. In the introduction, the first sentence, like the second sentence, Glory is talking about my earliest memories of my mother reading Eloise Greenfield's Honey I Love. And then like that just struck something and like uncovered like a repressed memory almost. Like not just Honey I Love, but like I was obsessed with Eloise Greenfield when I was small. So just reading that, I was like, oh, sit with the feels. And I need to order a new copy of Honey I Love because I don't know where mine, well, I know where mine is, but I can't get to it right now. I just loved that book so much. And I think that was my first real like experience with poetry, and which led me to think I was a poet growing up. I am a 2-time published poet, 1st and 3rd grade. Thank you so much. Yes, my published poem was about my dog. And the other one was about camp. Doesn't matter. Your fave could never. I really enjoyed this. I'm glad I finally got around to reading it. It's been on my bookshelf, my little tiny baby bookshelf, for so long. And I just walked by it. But I just thought, hey, this is something I could read really quickly during Black History Month. I didn't. It took the whole month to read it. But to be fair, I was reading other books alongside of it. Yeah, I have a lot of well-read Black girling to do, and yeah, a lot of catching up, honestly. I think that's everything. That's it. Those are the books that I read in February. Like I said, really, really good reading month. Now we are at the end of the first week of March. I just finished my We Hunt the Flame reread. I'm also wearing my We Hunt the Flame t-shirt because I'm about to start reading We Free the Stars, finally. I'm so hype, I'm sorry. But yes, sorry I keep fiddling with this. One, I haven't had hair past my ears in a very long time. But anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know what your favorite read of February was, what you're reading right now in March, or whenever you're watching this. If you like this, please give it a thumbs up. If you like me, feel free to subscribe. All my places are down here so you can follow me, and I'll follow you back. And I'll see you very soon.